It will go live, what we say.
So we have to be
We are live. So, hi everyone, and welcome to this live. We today we are going to talk about collaborative innovation during COVID-19. We have a great panel, so I'm very well accompanied by a group of people that I will introduce in a few minutes. First of all, let me introduce myself. I'm André Nunes. I'm the COO of BTI Brazil. BTI Brazil is the Brazilian operation of BTI, which is a global collaborative innovation company that namely has been working with EDP in some of its programs and initiatives in terms of innovation. And with me today, I have Carla Pimenta. Carla Pimenta is the head of startup engagement at EDP Innovation. I also have Daniel Nascimento, investment director of EDP Ventures, and Tim Kock, co-founder of Jungle AI, a very impressive startup that has been working with EDP throughout the last years. The idea today is to have a very comprehensive conversation about different initiatives all these companies are doing in terms of promoting innovation, investment, and collaboration between startups and corporates. We are going to, of course, be open to questions that anyone watching at home might have for our panel. But I would, feel free to start asking those questions. We will be watching those, and I will be asking the questions that you have to each of the participants in this talk. But let me start by asking each of you to introduce yourselves, and I would start with Carla.
Ladies first.
Yes.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Carla Pimenta, and I'm the head of startup engagement at EDP. Although I have a pure financial background, I'm passionate about innovation and the vision and the strategy and working in projects 10 years from now. And this perspective really makes me proud of working at EDP Innovation. But what makes me really enthusiastic about this is the opportunity of working with so many brilliant founders, amazing people from all over the world. This startup engagement unit at TDP, what we do is to source and select the best startups working in the energy industry all over the world and put them in contact with our business unit. So I'm kind of a human Tinder in this process. So we promote the dating phase and the engagement, and hopefully they get invested or they become our suppliers, or ideally both.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Danielle, can you introduce yourself also?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, thank you very much for the invitation to be here. It's great to do this live here with the three of you. As rightly mentioned, I'm an investment director at EDP Ventures, which is the venture capital arm of EDP Group. And EDP Ventures in itself, it operates pretty much like any other venture capital firm around the world. So we invest in companies, in startups, with the aim to get a financial return, but being backed by a corporate unit, we also invest having a strategic objective in mind. We are what is called a seed and Series A investors, so we typically write check sizes ranging from 500 to 2 million euros. We pretty much invest all around the world, from the US, Brazil, Portugal, Spain, Netherlands, all the way to Israel and Bangladesh. So right now we have 29 portfolio companies and around 70 million euros of assets under management. Given that we always look for a strategic return on our investment, we are particularly focused in what is called the clean tech sector. So companies that can bring strategic value and benefit, and I would say innovation per se, to EDP Group by introducing EDP to new ways of doing old things. EDP Ventures, it was incorporated in around 2008, and our investment activity has been progressively growing. We had two major milestones in terms of growth, which was when we joined free electrons and when we joined the starter program, which allowed us to have an access to a very good and high quality pipeline of companies working in this area. So it's around 500 to 600 applications each year to each of the companies. And in itself, these programs are great because they not only allow us to have access to very good companies, but also allow the companies to work to leading utilities around the world and allow them to develop their own use cases and typically their first POCs.
Mm-hmm. We will further explore that in the next round. And thanks for that very comprehensive introduction to the work you've been doing. I would ask also Tim to present himself.
Hello, good afternoon. So my name is Tim. I'm one of the founders of a company called Jungle. Obviously very happy to be here. EDP has many very impressive portfolio companies, so it's an honor to represent them as well. In a nutshell, Jungle has built an engine that allows very large and complex asset bases to describe themselves. So with that information, people that own and operate these asset bases can see what the true health is of that asset base and what it will be in the future. So this allows you to optimize output, work on much better, more effective operations and maintenance strategies, and essentially, save a lot of money and create a lot of space. And we've been doing this since the summer of 2016. And very shortly after we were founded, we moved to the beautiful country of Portugal for many reasons, but also because it feels right. And EDP very quickly spotted us, got in contact with us, and we have started a growing collaboration since then. So we are not only invested by EDP, but we also work closely together with several different departments and a lot of people. I think yesterday when I looked at the @edp.pt list in my inbox, it was over 100 already. Big team.
Okay, good. And thank you all for this introduction. I will again ask people watching to any questions that you have to put it on the chat. I will look at all of them and then pass those questions to our guests. But I would start, Carla, by asking you to talk a bit about the importance of innovation for EDP and what are your main innovation activities.
Well, innovation is no longer a buzzword. Many companies no longer have an innovation unit because innovation is the heartbeat of a company. And companies that don't innovate, they don't have a place in the competitive markets. But having said this, innovation is the introduction of something new. And 40% of the EBITDA of EDP today is coming from a business that was not existent 12 years ago. It is renewable generation. So back then, this was innovation. It is no longer innovation, but it's part of our DNA. And we invest every year around 70 or 80 million euros in innovation. And we are very, very open to to collaborations with smaller companies such as startups and SMEs. And we have around 100 of those companies working with EDP today, and 40 of those are invested. Around 35, 40 companies are invested by EDP Ventures. And we are extremely used to this new scene. This entrepreneurial ecosystem is the one that we've been working in the past 10 years. And we have developed several instruments to work with startups. That's why we created this startup engagement unit. And inside this unit, we promote and we coordinate and organize several programs and events and hackathons. But the flagship programs of this unit is the free elections and the Startup Business Acceleration. And this year, we received more than 800 applications from each program, from 74 different countries. This is absolutely amazing, and we are quite impressed also with the quality of the applications of these programs. And it means that corporate startup collaboration is more than ever absolutely essential for a big corporation to keep the rhythm and be in the market in the best way and stay competitive. So for us, innovation is and the collaboration with startups and SMEs is key, is fundamental. We have been receiving a huge amount of innovation proposals, innovative technologies, new business models. So the challenge here for us is to select the most appropriate ones to our company.
Okay. Danielle, regarding, and you were already started mentioning that, what does it mean for EDP Ventures, both the starter and free electrons that Carla mentioned, in terms of pipeline for investments, and what are the main objectives that EDP Ventures has within the overall strategy of EDP Group?
Okay, so as I previously said, so EDP Ventures was incorporated in around 2008. Well, I think we started slow and small, learning how to do VC business with others, and we had two major markers in our growth. So one was when we joined Free Electrons, and the other when the Starter Business Acceleration Program was launched. These are, I would say, we call them acceleration programs, but they are not in acceleration in the ordinary sense, as the main purpose is to get startups to do business with the utilities. So this is a commercial acceleration, okay? And I think this really attracts a lot of the best companies in the clean tech space out there to apply to these programs, and because they are eager to do business. So by attracting the best there is, we get access to a significant amount of information of what is being done in each of its particular sectors of activities. We are able to pretty much choose the best of the best to join these programs, and which in itself it's a filter. And again, we are able to work closely with this 10 to 15 companies in the free electrons, to 20 to 30 in the starter throughout the course of a year, which give us a very good in-depth and very close due diligence on each of those companies. Not only the results they get by working with us, but also with other utilities. So in itself, it's a very good way to get deal flow. It's a very good way to assess companies, and we typically end up investing each year in 1 to 2 companies that come out of this, either the free electrons or the starter program. I think it's win-win for the EDP Group and win-win for EDP Group, for all the utilities that participate in the programs, but also for the companies that go through the program. In itself, going back to your second question, the how does EDP Ventures fit within the think, the broad strategy of EDP Group. We are, I would say, together with Carla's team, we are one of the innovation instruments of the group. We have different objectives, but in its most basic form, it's to be a driver of innovation to the group. Carla, as she mentioned, she's the human Tinder, so she tries to promote work between the companies and the EDP Group. We, in itself, we like our portfolio companies to not only work with the EDP Group, but we also try to get a financial return by investing on the ones that we see are better fit. So we try to leverage both, or we try to get both sides of the coin, if you want, and be present from a financial and also from a strategic perspective. We also feel, as a VC, we feel that we have a significant amount of value to be added, not only from our network of utilities with whom we work around the world. Some of them are in those two programs, but also by the technical know-how we are able to bring to the table.
Okay, and passing to Tim, which has already the perspective of the startup in this relationship with both EDP Innovation and EDP Ventures. I would ask you, Tim, to further introduce the work being done by Jungle AI, and namely the collaboration and the relationship that you developed with EDP, because I think it's interesting for other startups that are watching to have a perspective of another startup that already did that work about how this collaboration started and how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, initially we were nothing more than a applied research and development firm. So we were doing a hell of a lot of research and trying to find companies to apply that research with, especially in the field of machine learning, working with real data, accelerates your growth a lot faster. And we were working within the wind sector. We already had onboarded some customers in that area, and EDP being one of the largest wind portfolios in the world, we thought it would be an amazing opportunity to work together. And then we met a very smart person by the name of Georges Simões, and he said, "That's great. We have got this far more difficult problem in power transformers. Let's see if you can apply your technology there as well, because if you're only going to focus on wind turbines, it's not going to be an enormous growth." So we said, "Okay, that's great, that's fine." And then secretly, I think behind the doors, they were like, "It's never going to work. This problem is way too hard." I think even one of the innovation board members who had taught on the subject in university said, "Nah, it's not going to happen." And then we did end up solving some things, and we started to derive some value, and the collaboration started growing and growing. And I think one of the biggest growth moments was actually being selected to join the Free Electrons acceleration / incubation program, which really, it's neither of those. It's more like I don't know, I've called it different things in the past, but I think it's more like a commercial accelerator. So it makes sure that supply and demand really comes together. So the real problems get lifted up from the business units. So the utilities bring their heads of business units along. So you speak to everybody from the C level to the line manager of business unit to the engineer itself. And what's really cool about that is you cut a lot of the back and forth in communications and emails and sales processes with what are large companies, where sales cycles typically take from 12 to 18 months. And it accelerates a lot. And I think through Free Electrons, we started to demonstrate our value to other utilities, which was also largely facilitated by Beta I and EDP. And in turn, the EDP Ventures invested deeper into Jungle, and then the relationship kept growing from there on. And I think right now we are on a track of 3 different parallel projects with, in total, 5 to 6 business units, all encompassing, which is being coordinated by the Digital Global Unit that's led by Georges Simões and Luis Cordero and his team. And yeah, that's it's bizarre, because even in these times, there has been growth in that relationship. So we got approached the other day saying, "Hey, look, we've got this other research project that we're thinking about, and your technology falls in line. Let's see what we can do." And we're not meeting each other, but it's taking off, and the first steps are being taken. So,
yeah. And we were actually talking about this before we started the live on how important it is to keep a momentum, to not having COVID-19 stopping us from doing innovation, from connecting corporates' needs with startup solutions, not stopping investment. Because when we talk about startup ecosystem, they need this, right? They need to do this to develop themselves, to be able to grow. And so if we stop that momentum, we are actually not enabling those startup ecosystems, regardless of the sector. People are already asking some questions, so I'm going to jump into some questions they have. Pedro Pinto Coelho is asking us how we are actually supporting startups in the current COVID-19 situation. So I would ask Carla, because I know we've been working on a new version of both Free Electrons and Starter to make them fully remote programs that still enable this connection to happen. So I think it would be interesting to talk about this. And also we have another question, which is how these programs are actually different from a typical accelerator. Tim was already mentioning that, but I think it's important to go deep on that.
So for us, it's business as usual. For us, nothing has changed. So changing the models or the programs to a digital format for us was a no-brainer. Counseling is not part of our vocabulary. We cannot cancel this. A lot of work has been done so far, so it wouldn't make sense at all. Postponing was not the best option because we need this window of opportunity to start working with startups or SMEs. It takes several months to get a pilot project designed, implemented, kicked off, and finished. So postponing to the end of the year would not be the best solution. And we are very used to this remote dynamics. We work with startups from literally all over the world, from Hawaii to Australia, and we cannot fly everywhere all the time. One has to work eventually, so we work remotely all the time. What we've been missing, or what we will be missing, is the human contact, is the networking moments, and they are very important as well. But we are certainly making the most out of it. Why? Because we have business units asking to participate in this program right away. When these programs take place in different cities where we have operations such as Madrid or São Paulo or Houston, we are flying 3 of us, usually folks from innovation team. And we are not flying our colleagues from the business unit that are actually our clients on this. Those are the ones that will decide if they want to jump in a pilot project or a collaboration project with a startup. So they are asking us to participate right away. And they can join easily from home and start doing one-on-one sessions with the startups right away. And this is absolutely amazing. And they are asking us if they can bring more people from their teams to participate in these models. And this is a learning curve. And we are certainly learning a lot with this 2020 digital edition. So next year, eventually we can go physically again on these programs, but why can't we have an hybrid model? Because it enables more people to participate. Maybe we can scale up these programs to more startups because traveling is an issue because it has costs. And traveling 30 startups, it's not the same of traveling 100 startups to the cities. And maybe we can scale up the programs. We will be definitely having more people involved. And we received 820 applications for Starter Business Acceleration from 74 different countries. This is an absolute record. And I think that this program more than ever is perceived as a deal accelerator. This is not an acceleration for startups. We are not going to accelerate the discount. We accelerate the deal and the collaboration between these smaller companies with EDP. In this COVID-19 scenario, we've been doing other initiatives or collaborating with other initiatives specifically related with this pandemic disease. But in what concerns the energy industry and these technological programs, I would say that nothing has changed, business as usual.
And that's really, really important because having that mindset of continuing that collaboration, of having business as usual, is really key, even with all the challenges that we have, so that we don't have an extra challenge to the already existing and very tough situation that we have. On that also is of course very important also to and these programs are an amazing way to support startups by having giving them the opportunity to actually do business with large companies like EDP, but at the same time, and EDP Ventures has a comprehensive portfolio of invested startups, and for me, it would be interesting to understand, and I think for people watching, what type of support EDP Ventures has been giving to their invested startups. I know that you have a very customized approach because you have different types of startups, and so they are facing this challenge in a very different way. Can you give us more insights on that, Daniel?
Yeah, sure. So, like you were rightly saying, we have a broad and diverse portfolio of companies, and I would say diverse meaning several geographies, different maturity profiles, different cash position, and all those three factors need to be taken into account when we are talking to them and see how they are able to manage and navigate through this pandemic. So I would say that first 2 to 3 weeks we spent significant amount of time close to our portfolio companies, listening to them what they were feeling that the market was telling them, how much of postponing they were getting on the discussions they were having from customers, how it was affecting their day-to-day operations. We also had strong discussions. What were the kind of financial support programs that were available in each of the countries that those companies operate to see how they could apply and if they were eligible or not. So I think we spent a significant amount of time defining, I would say, a strategy on each of those companies to see what were the 4 or 5 steps that they could take to better navigate these turbulent waters and get out of it stronger than they were. I think more often than not, the same question always popped up was, should I have fired? Should I lay off? Should I continue hiring or not? Again, our answer would change based on the cash position, on the maturity of the product, on the commercial feedback that they were getting. But in most of the cases, we told our companies to keep your staff, keep working. If you can, keep your hiring process, even though at a more I would say moderate pace, because this will get over soon. We have to work with that, the assumption that in 2 or 3 months things will get over. We'll get back to business, perhaps not as usual, but we will get back to business. And by the end of that time, you still need to have a better product that what you had before. You still need to continue generating business leads. So you need to continue working, because your competitors out there, they are working, and they are working to get better. So you should do the same as well. So that on the ecosystem that is more close to us, so within our portfolio companies. On the other hand, on the company that we were looking into and our continuous deal flow activity, we continue to be open to get new deal ideas and new pitches. Just last week we were in an event with Port Digital, again, everything digital as well. We were in an event with Startup Lisboa, and we weren't doing just to fill our empty slots. We were doing it because we have interest, and we have available funds to commit to interesting companies that we see. We do expect that raising funds will take longer than it was in the past. I think the human touch and the human component is still important. So what was probably done previously in 3 months I would advise founders that to consider 5 to 6 months. But I think there is still money out there for companies that have good and have solid ideas.
Okay. Team, we have a question from Arda Power. They are asking. So you already mentioned your experience with EDP and how it started and how it developed, and they don't have any doubts that there are a lot of positive sides of the work you've been doing with EDP. What they are asking is how about the things that didn't go according to your expectations, and what could a company like EDP improve in that perspective when working with a startup like Django?
Yeah, be gentle with us.
This is the setup. I'm going to be completely honest. That's the only thing that is any value. Before I answer the question, I just wanted to add a small thing to the two discussions that were happening earlier. Is that it might be business as usual for these two excellent departments that are very active. So, for example, in the free electrons instances that I've experienced, EDP was always the most active investor and active participant. They're also part of the co-organizers. But I mean, for startups, it's not business as usual. It's business as unusual. There are large collateral domino effects in the markets that are not going to hit us immediately right now, but they will slap us a lot of times later on in the year. And I'm a bit worried about, these companies are still operating on financial year budgets of this year, but I'm really worried about what the financial budgeting is going to be for next year and the effect on startups. So from our other investors, we also heard, look, do what you can to keep everybody on board, but do realize that you need to sit out this period, and it might take very short, but it might take a long while. And you need to focus on your cash outflow. This is very common sense advice, although it does have a very literal impact, and that is that you need to make very hard choices, and that really sucks. It's awful to have to let people go that you spend a lot of time and effort bringing on board that were amazing hires, and because the change in circumstance and the longer procurement cycles, there is no space. And the last thing I want to say on the previous topic is that, you know, you might think that, you know, when you start a project, it's based on all of the negotiations and effort that you've done before this period, but one of the projects with EDP actually started during or when this thing had already started. So I think that they are doing an amazing job, and more than a lot of the prospective customers that we have, that we feel the deal flow is still continuing. So they're helping very practically in that way. Now, to answer your question, I'm sorry it took a long time to get there. Everything's different, right? I mean, when you're interacting with somebody personally, you are able to build a momentum, and you're able to say, look, what are we talking about here? Let's get down to business. Let's not leave the room until we understand what the criteria are of a particular contract or not. And when you are remote, it's a bit more asynchronous. So it's, we'll get back to you, we'll come here, come there. So I'm seeing at least a doubling in the communication time. But then there are bursts where it very quickly happens, because on the other side, they also have a bit more time due to the fact that they have to spend less time on overhead of traveling, et cetera, et cetera. So people are getting more done at the expense of mental health, I should say. But that is helping. So I think if there's something that, I mean, everybody can always improve. But I think especially now, given the fact that procurement cycles are longer and things take longer, just to be aware of that understanding that, yes, it does take longer and it might not have a huge impact on a large corporate, but on a startup, every day counts, especially now that the runway is even higher under focus. So if there's one thing, it's just the understanding that it's just a little bit different. It's not really okay anymore to reply 2-3 weeks later. You kind of need an answer quickly. But I think EDP is exemplary in taking action in that.
Okay.
I hope that answers your question.
No, it does. It does. There's another question that I'm going to put to Carla. Gonçalo is asking, besides free electrons and starter, what are there more collaborative innovation programs from EDP? He's mentioning the open data challenges, for instance. What other initiatives you're having?
Yeah. Yes, of course. We organized several other events and hackathons. The Open Data is a platform where we have real data that you can use to work on your own projects. And I believe Jungle hackathon. We met Jungle in this Hack the Wimp hackathon for the first time, and they used the open data set to solve the challenge that was on that hackathon by them, and they were the winners. So besides the free electrons and this program, we organize talks. We organize matchmaking between startups and other corporates besides EDP, corporates with whom we collaborate with. Also, we tend to be very active on these other events organized by other entities, such as the one Porto Digital that Daniel just mentioned. We try to go everywhere, but we can't. So we have to be very selective. So the ones that we feel that have more pipeline for us, because the challenge here is to select the best programs to attend, the best demo days to attend, the best matchmaking that have most pipeline or real interesting innovative technologies that have fit with our business. And it is a very, very specific business. Even if the events take place outside Portugal, if they are digital, of course, we are there, and we easily block an entire day to have one-on-one meetings with 10, 20 startups from United States, from Australia, from other countries in Europe. So we tend to be quite active in the ecosystem, organizing our own initiatives, but also participating in key initiatives that are taking place a little bit all over the world. And thus, also as sourcing initiatives or innovation instruments, we are also very active during the Web Summit Week, which is also an important event that occurs in Lisbon. We organize these immersion innovation programs in Silicon Valley and China, and we take groups of 15 executives from EDP 3 times a year to visit Silicon Valley and have the chance to get in touch with accelerators, investors, and startups from that area. Many other examples I could give you, but I think we are quite active in the startup scene and initiatives to find potential corporate startup collaboration.
Yeah. In the investment side also, one question that we have here is, Danielle, if you only invest in startups that participate in the programs of EDP?
Short answer, no, not at all. We use the programs those 2 programs as a source to generate high quality deal flow. However, we invest in companies that have not been to those programs, and we then encourage them to go through them so that they can get faster exposure to other utilities. Okay.
In terms of a team, I think it would be interesting to have your because you've been already on one of these programs, so you've walked the path that some of the startups are going to start now in Starter. So next stage will be the online pitch. Then we will, of course, select the ones moving to the module. And you've done all this path. What kind of tips do you have or learnings that you got from actually going to a program like this that you would like to tell the startups that are watching?
I think like the number one tip would be a piece of advice my dad gave me when I was starting out my first business, is that nobody brings you anything. There's nobody sitting like, oh, I'm going to bring Tim something nice today. So what I mean with that is you got to put in the effort. You just got to kick ass, do a lot of work on the pitches, make sure that you speak to a lot of people, get feedback, leave your ego by the door, and just make sure that you're focusing not on what one of the guys at Energy called innovation theater, but value. In the end, it's about you have to save the other party some money or make some money. So it's either cut downside or increase the upside. If you're not doing that, then yeah, you don't really have a right to exist, I guess. So that would be the only tip. Work your ass off.
No, that's a really good tip. On the utility perspective, Carla, and now focusing specifically on the next moment of the starter program, that will be the online pitch, where we will have 60 startups pitching their solutions to the partners of the program. What kind of suggestions do you have to the startups that will move to that stage?
Yeah, we will be having 60 startups pitching to us in 3 days. It's a lot of work, and it shows also a lot of commitment from EDP, because we really are willing to find the best startups and initiate innovation collaboration with these companies. But the tips I have for you, this is a 5-minute pitch, 5-minute Q&A. So it's very, very fast. But you will be selling your own products. It's your company. You found this company. It shouldn't be that hard. And we can tell if you believe in the product or not. If you believe in the products and if you are enthusiastic about what you are selling, we get inspired and we get enthusiastic as well. This is the best tip I can give to you for a 5-minute pitch. Also, founders and co-founders, do not delegate this stage to other people in the company. People that joined recently the company, they don't have the same passion as you have. So this should be something that the founders and co-founders should really take the effort to be there, to be present. It's 10 minutes of your life. It's nothing. We will be doing this for 60 startups. And the program is for you. It's for us, but it is also for you. So you have to show commitment. And lastly, I would say that please read about the partners that are in the program. You really should learn beforehand with whom you're going to meet. Read about the people, go to the LinkedIn, just to make sure that you understand the roles of the people that you are going to meet with. Who are the partners? What is their business? This happened. This is a real story. It happened in one of the modules in one of our programs. So this startup, they had no idea that they were about to meet one of the partners of the program, and they were confused about this, and they thought that they were another startup. So as you can imagine, this 101, they got the environment got very, very awkward because they didn't do the homework. This is a basic. You are going to meet senior people from different utilities. You have to do your homework. Please learn about us. The information is all over the internet. It's super easy to get ready for this.
Yeah. And following up on this, because we have a question directly about the topic we are now talking. Is it okay to make it more of a solution pitch instead of a company pitch? This is a question from Arda Power.
Is it for me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. Of course, we have to understand the background of the company, but what we really want to understand is the solution. And we will be having technical people in this online pitch, so they will be asking technical questions. Also, please make sure that you are not going to select the best one to communicate, because those are not the best one to answer the technical questions that may arise during the online pitch. Again, founders and co-founders, this space is for you.
Yep. Team, there's a question here about, and we already started to address this, but I think it's good to understand the impact in the company growth for Jungle AI of participating in these programs, because you already mentioned the work you've been doing with EDP, but I think it's important also to understand how much of an impact joining a program like this can have in your business as a whole. In terms of the development, in terms of your initial plannings, in terms of how the company would go. Can you give us a perspective on this?
Well, two ways of approaching it. This is what is the impact on your growth during the program, so whilst you're actually in it. So a lot of people worry about these kind of programs, and I should say this is not a typical program slowing you down. Because you spend a lot of time. There are some incubators and accelerators out there, and again, this is not one, but where you go away from your company and your core activities for 3-4 months, and you work on something. And in some cases, like a Y Combinator or maybe even a Techstars or something else, or Seed Camp, it might make sense. But there are a lot of them that are about ticking boxes. The impact that it has on your company. I mean, utilities are not an easy customer. They're very, very big, they're very spread out. It's never one company. It's a hell of a lot of companies under one umbrella. So I think that if anybody would get the choice to speak to not one of, but almost all of your customers in one concentrated space, that is an enormous way to accelerate your product market fit or your solution market fit. So, I mean, it's a no-brainer. You should not do it in that sense. So it has an enormous impact on validation, on understanding of your customer, understanding what is value, what is not value. So yeah, it's do it. Just do it.
Danielle, in terms of how do you look to what key information do you look for when assessing the startups in terms of the perspective of investment for EDP Ventures? Namely, because EDP Ventures is pretty well connected with these programs, you will be also watching the online pitch moment, but of course you'll be looking into different angles than the business unit does, of course. What kind of key things do you like to see a startup bringing to the online pitch when they have this first interaction with the EDP Ventures in this case?
Okay, so I would just like to start by saying that you typically have 15 to 20 minutes to talk about your company, and perhaps 15 minutes or 10 to 15 minutes more for some Q&A. So do use those 15 minutes wisely. It's not going to be an elevator pitch, so do understand that you can go deep into a few areas of your company and to show who you are and what you've done and where you want to go. So having said that, you have 15 minutes to talk a bit about you. I would say that what we look for is, I would say, it's textbook for pretty much every seed and Series A VC, in the sense that we do like to understand who is the team behind it, who are they, how they've met, and if they've worked before. I think that's crucial, because you just can't fix a bad team. So you can fix a product, you can change markets, you can pivot a lot of things, but you just can't change a bad team. We look into commercial traction. We like to see who are your clients and what are the use cases that you've been developing from them, and what are the results that you've been able to get within those typically POCs that you have done. We do like to go deep into the technology and see what is the maturity of your product. Is it an MVP, or is it something already built that can be scaled easily and replicated to 10, 20, 30 more customers? Is it something that will require a significant degree of customization from customer to customer? So we have a lot of geeks working with us, so they will typically go very deep into the technology stack of the company, just to probe if it was done by you or if you've outsourced it. So we go team, we go traction, we go into technology. I would say then typically is, are you able to work within the as a supplier to a power utility, like Tim saying, are you going to be able to generate more revenue for us or decrease our costs? So I think that's a basic question. So what is your value proposition first? And then lastly, and I think this is important for companies that are looking for VC investment to understand, is that VC investors, they only get their money back when the company is sold. So we need to understand what is the exit strategy in typically 5 to 7 years. So who can buy you, and is there a track record for buying the companies in your area? Because that's how we are going to get our money back.
We have another question, this time from one of the startups that already was chosen to the top 60 of startups. So congrats for making to that stage. And they are asking, and Carla, I will ask the question to you, if you have already moved forward, if you move forward with POCs even during the program or only after the final.
No, absolutely not. We start working right away. So we will be having 3 different models separated by region, European region, North America, and Latin America. And we want to start working or start scoping the pilot project right away. The final is in November, and we are certainly not be waiting for the final to start working, also because we will be selecting the ones that have more traction among the partners, and those will be selected for the final moment at Web Summit. So the answer is we want to work with you as soon as possible.
Another question, and I'll ask you also, Carla, which is if only startups related with the energy industry can apply to these programs.
No, not at all. There are several topics that are transversal to many in other industries, such as cybersecurity or fraud prevention on payments, machine learning, augmented reality, drones for line inspections, satellite images for fire prevention or vegetation management. There are a lot of technologies that are being used by other industries. So the answer is no.
Yeah, I'd like to build on top of what Carla said, is that it can be particularly useful for a company that has already built a vertical in telco or in finance, and we see that their solution can have a good buy-in from power utilities, and that you are able to transfer the use case from one vertical to the other.
Actually, the winners of the 2019 edition, Lex Technologies, they used to work on aviation industry, and they were recently doing things on the energy industry, and they were the winners of the last edition. So as you can see, if you have a track record in other industry and you are willing to shift or to add another vertical to your business, that's absolutely fine.
Well, time actually flies when you have great conversations like the one we are having today. We are 3 minutes away from our deadline. But I have a final question, which is if you guys have any suggestion, I can ask this to the three of you, and we can start with team. If you have any suggestions for startups that want to apply to future editions of programs like Starter or Free Electrons, team.
Do your homework, get in touch before you even apply. Try and reach out to the innovation or ventures department. They are more than responsive. Make sure that you understand what selection criteria are. Today I heard a good quote from our current CEO, and that is that the second best answer after a yes is a no, because worse than that is a no idea, right? So just get in touch, understand if there's a fit, really understand if there's a fit, and then do your best to apply. Showcase what you have, like Carla said, and then I think you stand a decent chance.
Mm-hmm. Carla, Danielle?
Yeah, so please bear in mind that this is not a startup accelerator. This is a deal accelerator, and you don't have to block 3 months of your time to participate in this program. So on Free Electrons, we get together 4 times, digitally or physically, I don't know how it will be next year. And on Starter, we will be getting together once physically. And after that, everything happens remotely. And we will fly and join you, or you can fly and join us in Lisbon or in São Paulo or in Madrid or Houston, or whenever it's necessary. So actually, it's a deal opportunity for you. You will meet several other utilities. It's not only EDP that is involved in this program. Mm-hmm. This is also very important for you on Free Electrons and also on Starter Business Acceleration. We have other partners on this program, and you will be meeting different business units. You will be meeting guys from generation, from distribution, from retail, from renewable generation, and also people with many years of experience in the energy industry, energy experts. You can also rely on their advices to clarify any issues that you may have. And also never forget that we have different DNAs. Okay, so startups, you are more agile, you are more flexible, you can go faster on this. But utilities, on the other hand, we have dozens of years of experience, and we have the resources. But yes, we are slower. And I would that sentence that everybody knows that if you want to go alone, if you want to go faster, you go alone. you want to go further, we go together. But this is it. This is a great opportunity for both the big corporations and the smaller companies like yours.
And that's a great way to showcase the value proposition of innovative collaboration, right?
Yes.
I'm going to answer the question from Ulrich, which will be the final question today. He's asking about the difference between the different modules and if a European startup, for instance, should apply to the European module. No. So you apply to the program, and then you get selected and invited to join a module. So when you're applying to the entire program, and then the selection is made and you are invited to a specific a module, having in account either your location or also the area, the challenge that you are tackling, and that is the selection process then is made by the partners of the program, which are in different regions. Thank you everyone, first of all, watching, for the questions that you made. I think we covered a lot of different topics around innovation, around investment, around the startup perspective when joining a program like this or working with a company like EDP. I thank you, all of you, for the great talk that we had. I hope that it was very informative also for people watching. So as a classic in this type of setting, when we are talking about startups and programs like this, I will give you a 1 minute final pitch so that you can share any key message that you want to leave at the end of this conversation. I can start with this time with Tim, and then Danielle, and then we wrap up with Carla.
Yeah, I think that if you're working in a space which even remotely overlaps with a company like EDP, I would say make sure you get in touch and understand everything that they have to offer, because from all of the companies that we've known in our nearly 4 years of existence, they have the largest outreach program to innovative young companies. So if you want to hit the ground running, get started.
Danielle?
Yeah, so a word of support to all the companies out there. Just keep in mind that the world continues to spin around the sun. So even if it's a bit cloudy on the horizon right now, just continue your work, continue focused on the future and what was your roadmap. Just like you go with Bear Grylls, just adapt, improvise, overcome. And if you feel that you are able to contribute to EDP and to our partners, just reach out to us, just get some more information on the programs, and we'll be happy to reply to you.
Right. Carla?
And finally,
Finally?
yeah, never give up, and pay attention to these open innovation programs, because they could be very interesting for you. Not only envisioning a collaboration between the big corporation and the startups, but also bear in mind that you will be meeting a lot of other startups. And we've been seeing cases of collaboration between startups, because you can always find someone or some companies that complement what you're doing. And that is also very interesting when these things happen, and that is the flexibility that startups have to start working together in the same project. And you shouldn't see yourselves as a competitors in this program, because you can be partners in the same project, and that is also very interesting to see.
Mm-hmm. Thank you all. It was for me personally a great pleasure to have this talk with you. I hope that we get the chance to do this again, and I'm sure that we will be having other lives being made throughout the program, throughout Starter, because we still have a long journey ahead with and hopefully a lot of great results in terms of collaboration between all the utilities and the startups joining the program. So it's time to say goodbye to everyone, and hope to see you soon. And for those already joining Starter Edition and joining the online pitch moments that we will have on the next 2 weeks, we will see you there. Thank you all. Bye bye, and have a great night.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you. Are we allowed to leave, André, or are we still